Even if Gene Hackman decided to leave Hollywood, the industry will never forget him. The impact of his films and performances was undeniable, and his legacy endured. Hoffman may have been tardy in speaking, but at least he did so to bring attention to the fact that Gene Hackman was a legendary figure in addition to a fantastic actor. First chapter: The untimely demise of a Hollywood icon. Among the most legendary actors Hollywood has ever produced is Gene Hackman. A sign of honesty, skill, and distinctive taste, he was also an accomplished performer. It appeared as though time stood still as word of his and his wife Betsy Arakawa's untimely demise spread. The sudden departure of a strong man like Gene from this earth shocked everyone. At first, the Santa Fe police thought it was just a natural death. However, a radically different narrative emerged from the details at the scene. A tale whose eerie quality grows as one reads on. A neighbor, who had not seen Gene Hackman or his wife for 2 days, had finally had enough and had contacted the authorities that morning, April 7th. Since Gene and Betsy regularly strolled around the neighborhood first thing in the morning, their close friends and acquaintances found this rather strange. The Santa Fe police were shocked by what they found when they stormed the home in the peaceful outskirts. On the couch, Gene Hackman lay lifeless, his hand clenched around a book. Nearby, at the base of the stairs, Betsy Arakawa had slumped. Their faithful buddy, Xena, the dog, was discovered lifeless in the closet. No evidence of a fight was found in the house, which was spotless. No indications of an intrusion were found. So, what transpired in reality? The Santa Fe police were unable to quickly rule out the possibility that it was anything other than a typical passage. After further inquiry, uncovered a number of peculiar characteristics. A number of medicine bottles are open on the table. On the living room table, there was a bottle of medication that had never been listed in Gene's prescription document. Some of the components in this bottle have sedative or CNS-suppressing properties. The leaning heater. Gene Hackman was far from a youth, but he never struggled with mobility. It begs the question, who touched the huge heater that was pushed over for no apparent reason? The closet dog, Xena. Xena, the canine, had spent a great deal of time accompanying Gene Hackman. Normally, it would have been found by his side, so why was it discovered in the closet? The dog, according to a neighbor, barked wildly the night before Hackman was located, before going silent. The cops made an educated guess. Somebody purposefully hid Xena in the closet so it wouldn't respond to anything. When put together, these seemingly insignificant elements painted a dark picture of what transpired within that house. Both Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were determined to have died of natural causes, according to the Santa Fe Police Department's original report. Nevertheless, some remained unconvinced. The initial inquiry had some holes that the FBI found when they became engaged. Although there were no indications of physical aggression, the forensic examination did find sedative residues in the blood samples taken from Gene and Betsy. Around 2:37 in the morning, when Xena's barking was noticed by the neighbor, the security system of the house was turned off. The previous night, Gene Hackman had a 17-minute conversation with a mysterious caller, according to his phone records. On his last night, who called Hackman? That is the question. The FBI found a slew of questionable people associated with Hackman in his last months after reviewing his previous interactions. Daniel and Barbara Linehan, long-standing friends of Hackman's, who had altered their testimony in a suspicious way. Someone who worked with Hackman in New Mexico, but is now anonymous, has a recent financial disagreement with him. Investigative journalist, who, in the week leading up to his death, emailed Hackman with crucial information. At first, the police didn't believe the claims of external intervention, but the FBI wasn't quickly persuaded. They suspected wrongdoing, and the initial clues had started to materialize. It appeared, at first glance, that Gene Hackman's demise was imminent. However, As additional details about that tragic night were revealed, it became apparent that there was a lot more going on. Gene Hackman had a prescription he had never taken before. Why was this? During his last night, who had contacted him? For what reason was Zena confined to the closet and the heater turned upside down? An enigmatic chain of events involving questionable characters who may have been privy to more information than they let on became apparent to the FBI as their inquiry progressed. The truth will be revealed when the list of individuals suspected of being involved in this mystery is public. Second chapter. The missing pieces of the puzzle. Santa Fe is a peaceful metropolis where no one bothers their neighbors and where days can pass without anybody wondering what happened. Something seemed off when the cops showed up at the house of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. At first, their demise was thought upon as a sad but inevitable fact of life. However, an inquiry followed. I don't see how they could have died just 1 week apart and nobody have noticed. Alarming detail was seen by the first detectives who arrived at the scene. A few days previously, Betsy seemed to have died, but Hackman's body had symptoms of acute dehydration. There was no logic to this. Why was there a difference in their condition if they both died at the same time? However, the most crucial indication wasn't visible to the human eye. It was encased in a little gadget called Hackman's pacemaker. Gene Hackman's cardiovascular health was precarious. He had a pacemaker put in a few years ago to regulate irregular heartbeats. Not many people are aware that these gadgets also collect data on a patient's biological activities, which might help them lead healthier lifestyles. This information would prove that Hackman did in fact die on the day the police predicted. A startling reality, however, was unearthed when the FBI sought information from the device maker. On March 31, Hackman's last biological activity was recorded, around 7 days prior to the discovery of his corpse. This suggested that Hackman might have died a number of days prior, but nobody was aware of it. What was Betsy, his wife, up to while she was living there with him? How come she didn't summon assistance? No one was contacted? More horrifying still would have been the question that emerged had the FBI reason to suspect Betsy's continued existence following Hackman's death. How much longer would she have to endure that fate on her own? The FBI returned to question those responsible for Hackman's death as soon as they found the discrepancy in his time of death. At this point, the accounts began to conflict with one another. Longtime acquaintances of Hackman's, Daniel and Barbara Lenahan, claimed to have spoken with him by phone on April 5. However, according to information provided by the network operator, Hackman's last call was on March 30, the very day before the pacemaker stopped recording his activities. According to the mail carrier, Betsy did not see Hackman when she picked up the mail on April 3 RD. On April 2, the security system of the residence was turned off, but there were no indications of a break-in. Tell me who did it. The FBI began to suspect there was a problem with this story as they gathered more and more evidence. Emerging from the shadows was a horrifying theory. Betsy had spent many days in that house by herself, close to Hackman's corpse. Well, what transpired exactly? After examining the scene of the crime, the FBI came to the conclusion that someone may have staged a fake death to make it appear as though the victim had died of natural causes. Despite the heater being on its side, no one appeared to have slammed into it. On the table lay an open bottle of tablets that had clearly not been taken. In the closet, they discovered Zena, their dog. Given that, why could a dog perish in that location? One thing is obvious to everyone who has ever had a dog as a pet. It won't just go into hibernation in the event that its owner passes away. This led to a terrifying theory. Could the dog's body have been buried in an effort to obfuscate any evidence? These things were too big for the FBI to overlook. Extending the probe was their decision. They double-checked all of Hackman's financial data. Each and every call that went to or from his phone was tracked. They asked to see Hackman and Betsy's most recent prescription records. Next thing you know, a vital piece of information was uncovered. Just before he died, Hackman's financial situation changed. This was no longer seen as a routine case by the FBI. It became clear to them in Hackman and Betsy's last days that someone might have meddled with their lives. Somebody took a big chunk of money out of Hackman's account in the beginning of March. Tell me who did it. At what suspicious hour was Hackman's security system disabled? Was Betsy indeed left all alone while Hackman was gone? Why then did she not summon assistance? At what point did anybody visit this residence? By asking these questions, the FBI could open a fresh line of inquiry and, who knows, maybe even make an arrest that would shock everyone. Where did Hackman and Betsy disappear to? Is there a mastermind behind this? Third chapter. A startling disclosure by the FBI. So, who's on this roster? The most recent FBI report shook Santa Fe to its foundations. It came as no surprise that the first name on the list, which was disclosed after weeks of inquiry, was tied to Gene Hackman's strange passing. Barbara and Daniel Lenahan. Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were regarded close friends of the pair. The other names, though, were the true catalysts for the controversy. A long-estranged relative, a family lawyer, a maintenance worker who had worked at Hackman's residence, and the Lenahans were all targets of the FBI's investigation. Given the circumstances, why did these individuals come under suspicion? And did anyone, in fact, have anything to hide? Unusual financial dealings were uncovered as the FBI dug into Hackman's background. Over the 6 months leading up to his death, substantial